Alright, today we're going to be doing a tier list on all the Souls games based on how difficult their platinums are.
Daring today, aren't we?
Now, I feel like I can make a fair assumption for where most of these will go, but of course that's very case dependent. I've completed all the Souls Borne games for when it comes to platinums, and I've made some videos on a vast majority of them, but that's dependent on person to person. Some people might find one game really hard, while I found another game annoying or tedious or whatever it might be. It's always going to be different for every person. I'm going off of simply how difficult it was to essentially play from a fresh character on every game. Now, if you look at the list here, you might notice some extra ones like Demon Souls on the PS3, Dark Souls Prepare to Die, and Dark Souls 2. I'm going to put all the variations of the games that I haven't played. So that's Demon Souls on the PS3, base version of Dark Souls 2, not Scholar of the First Sin, and Dark Souls Prepare to Die. I don't know if Dark Souls Prepare to Die changed anything with Dark Souls Remastered, but I feel they are probably very similar. All I know is that Dark Souls Remastered had a few graphical changes and quality of life changes, but when it comes to the terms of platinums for Dark Souls Remastered, I felt it to be a very farm-heavy platinum, but I wouldn't say difficult. The only thing that I would say that probably would be difficult would be collecting all the weapons for the rare weapons trophy, where you have to collect all rare weapons. That means boss weapons and like very unique weapons that you can find throughout the land of Lordran. I think that's what it's called. And then probably if you had the farm covenant items for Dark Souls, it would probably be fairly difficult. But since I did duplication glitches for all of them, it wasn't too difficult, and that's what I assume most people will probably end up doing later on, because the duping in Dark Souls Remastered is incredibly easy. And then you also have the point to where you can get Havel's armor like a little over halfway through the game, right before Ornstein and Smough, and if you're able to equip it, you're essentially invincible. But with Dark Souls 2, it's kind of fucking annoying. Dark Souls 2, I think it's more difficult than Dark Souls Remastered for its platinum. I also just generally think it's more fucking annoying. That's why it's more difficult, as you can get basically every trophy in the game except for 2 spells on your first playthrough if done correctly, which is what I did. Now, the only 2 remaining trophies that I needed to do at the end of my first playthrough was collecting spells, like 3 or 4 spells in total, and I had to go into New Game Plus and then New Game Plus Plus, which I still had to play through fucking half the game on New Game Plus, which is the only way I find annoying about it, or difficult about it. Otherwise, it has very easy bosses, even though you have to go into the DLC and fight Fume Knight and Sir Alon, which I still find pretty fucking easy fights. And then also you have the reasons for it being harder than Dark Souls 2 of ADP, soul memory, annoying enemy placements, farming the red falconers for the sunlight medallions. I could go on, but I'm not going to. Now for Bloodborne is... I don't really remember it because I did it like over 2 years ago. But all I do remember is that Chalice dungeons kind of suck ass. The combat's fun, the gameplay is fun, thus making all the trophies an enjoyment to get. So I wouldn't say it's easy, because Chalice dungeons can suck my ass. Yeah, I just have to put it in the directly middle because I don't remember playing it. So, it goes here. Now, Dark Souls 3, it deserves fucking worse than annoying. Worse than Dark Souls 2. Dark Souls 3 makes me want to kiss my shotgun barrel. That's how fucking bad it makes me fucking mauled about this, getting this platinum. You have to collect like 107 rings, which involves you going into New Game Plus Plus, which isn't really the problem. It's just you have to collect 107 rings in obscure locations through NPC quests. You also have to collect Jesters, which are typically found through NPC quests. You also have to kill a fuckload of bosses, and a lot of those rings and spells are locked behind some of those bosses. Some of them are locked behind a New Game Plus bosses. And that's not even to mention the Covenant farming that you may potentially have to do. Like when I did my Dark Souls 3 video, Proof of a Consword Kept. For the Darkmoon Covenant, is known to have the worst drop drop rate for any of the Covenant items. It took me nearly 8 to 10 hours, and when you get those from offline farming, it feels fucking great because you're finally free from that torment. Once you get past that, if you don't have a friend to write down a soapstone to help you with it, Dark Souls 3 really isn't that bad if you exclude Covenant farming. But since Covenant farming is potentially there, and since I had to do it, it makes me want to kiss my shotgun barrel. Now, Sekiro is a weird one for me, because if this was, let's say, a few years ago, I'd put this in I want to kiss my shotgun barrel, because it just plays so much differently than any of the other Souls games. But it's also one of those games where it's a very easy game. There's not very many NPC quests for trophies. It's really only boss kills and endings. And after about your first playthrough of going through, where the game forces you to play like how it wants to play, you basically make it to where the game plays at your rhythm or your rate. And that's what I found pretty easy about it. Because the first time playing through, when it came out, when I was younger, terrible at the game. When I came back to it a few months ago, only took me about 8 to 10 hours to get through the first time. And then the third and fourth playthrough, cakewalks. Like cakewalks. Like this clip right here was me coming back to the game after not touching it for like a month and a half. And I'm still remembering the shit. Maybe that's just because of me getting better when I'm older, or as I'm older. But I don't know. I just find Sekiro to be pretty easy, so I'm giving it the number 2 spot for the easiest. Now for Elden Ring, I don't really have too much to say on Elden Ring besides I just think it's the easiest Souls game. You don't have to collect all the incantations or the spells. You only have to collect the legendary variations of spells, weapons, and talismans, or the equivalent of rings, which is probably a good thing because there's a metric fuck ton of shit in Elden Ring that if you were have to collect all that stuff, it would very much be the hardest, and that's due to just how long and how tedious it would be. It'd be like Dark Souls 3's ring achievement on, like, crack. Otherwise, all the bosses are easy, and depending on what build you do, it can trivialize the game. And what I did a mage build. It was like the first real time I did a mage build in any of the Souls games. And it made the game an absolute pushover, especially if you use all the tools as well, like spirit summons. Very much makes the game extremely easy. If they did make it to where you had to collect a lot more stuff than like 9 legendary weapons, probably like 10 or 12 spells, I don't even know the amount, and same goes with talismans and spirit summons, it would probably be a much more difficult platinum to get, but other than that, it's remarkably easy. It is by far the easiest. Now, Demon Souls is another weird one for me, because it could either be I want to kiss my shotgun barrel level, or Elden Ring easy. Because if it's in the case of Elden Ring easy, magic is blatantly oppressive, and of course I'm going to abuse the thing that's very strong in a game. So that's where it goes for easy. But when it comes to I want to kiss my shotgun barrel, is like in New Game Plus, where it feels like all the enemies are cranked to 11 in certain areas, and they just fucking one-tap you after one-tap you after one-tap you, and it gets kind of fucking annoying. Then there's also World Tendency, which I didn't find World Tendency to be super annoying. That's why I'm putting it in a little bit easier. If I were playing online when I did Demon Souls, and had to experience more of the online features or capabilities of World Tendency, it would probably go in the more closer to annoying or I want to kiss my shotgun barrel levels of suffering. But I also did find that there were 2 multiplayer trophies, which I don't necessarily mind multiplayer trophies in a game, except for when it's kind of forced, and also kind of harder as time goes on to get those trophies in the case of Demon Souls. It took me like a half an hour to be summoned in to get the help a person kill a boss as a phantom. I don't like that shit. Do I think Demon Souls would be harder for me if I didn't use magic? Yes. But once again, when you play a game and they give you access to a shit ton of skills, or essentially the game's arsenal, people are going to tend to use what's the strongest, and I did with magic. So I don't think it's unreasonable to put Demon Souls in an easier category like Sekiro and Elden Ring when it comes terms to Platinum if you're using magic. But it's really not that bad once you get used to the game. And I mean, I guess you could kind of say that about the other Souls games, but the other Souls games have more annoying trophies, like rings. Demon Souls really doesn't have that. It has a lot less rings and a lot less stuff in general, because it's the starting of the series. So I think it fits perfect and slightly easy, but not too hard. Now, if you guys do have a different way of viewing this list, as Elden Ring being the easiest and Dark Souls 3 being the hardest, I'd love to see your reasoning and why you disagree with me. Because it's always fun to hear another person's opinion on when it especially comes to ranking the Souls games, because some people find some easier, some people find some harder. I just love to see them. But you don't have to, of course. But if you did make it to the end, and you do want to see more content, you know, I gotta fucking sell out. You gotta hit that fucking like button and sub button. So have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.